Hello everybody, this is Des1230 here, back in with another video, and today I'll be going over the God-forsaken goddamn update slash chapter that was chapter 6. Also known as the final FU to everybody, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to complain about the fact that, oh, we didn't get another update before chapter 6 ended, or there's going to be no new content after that. I'm not going to do that because that's what the quarantine, that's something that's inevitable. The quarantine was up, they couldn't do anything about it. So whatever. I'm not here to complain about that. What I'm here to complain about is a messy, terrible chapter that has given me barely anything to do. And the fact that the only reason I'm actually still enjoying this game is the fact that because after they finally reverted the goddamn TTK, the game is actually has some competency to it. Either way, let's go. I'm going to go over each of the main things, and I'm going to, well, these main things will be launch stability, content overall, the chapter reward system, and the two big final things, which will be what the weekly update chapter rewards, or whatever you want to call them, and then finally the overall gameplay of the season slash chapter. So if you guys are ready, let's get into it. So one of the few things I can compliment about this season is there has been a distinct lack of massive plaguing issues. Usually every single season launches, or chapter, but I'm going to call them seasons because that's what they are, reality, usually launches with so many bugs and so many broken features that cause an issue. But as of recently, the launch stability has been fairly well. I have not seen too many glitches other than, like, other connection stuff. Although two big notable ones, or, well, I guess, and this last, well, and a third one that will be across all Battlefield. The first one being that there was another end of round display screen glitch that's been persisting for the past few seasons that has still not been fixed. And the second one being that when quitting servers, there is still a bug to which sometimes you will be put in screens where you cannot do anything, or your game will just crash. I don't know if this happens on other consoles, I don't know if this happens on PC. All I know is that this has happened to me and quite a few of my friends who play on PS4. So I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you guys see this as well. But either way. And then the final glitch is the whole, like, going online and having issues. Namely, there's been, and from people I've talked about, there have been times where people are trying to go online and they'll just disconnect randomly from EA and have to reconnect like 3 times before it accepts them and all that. Not too big of a deal. Like I said, it's not like it hinders gameplay or anything. It's just a small thing that, you know, a lot of people may not like. As for the stability, like I said, it's fairly good. There wasn't anything too broken with the game. Like I said, a few glitches here and there, but nothing bad. Okay guys, and next up we are going to talk about the actual content given, and, or in this case, the lack thereof. Okay guys, so for the chapter 6, we have gotten one new map, quite a few new weapons, 2 new gadgets, and a bunch of garbage. So the new map was Wake Island, or not Wake Island, shit, what was it called? Solomon Islands. Which is actually one of my favorite maps nowadays. I can say that they did a good job, and I will honestly admit that this is probably one of the best pieces of content from the new system. Secondly, we have all the new weapons. We have 4 new guns, or no, is it 4? It's 4 or 3. It's 3. It's 3. And 2 new gadgets. So, I'll go over the 3 guns first, and then talk about the 2 gadgets. So, the 3 guns that were added were the M1, the M1A1 full auto carbine, or in this case, it's the M2 carbine version of it, but whatever, who cares? I like using real life terms over the old ones. We have the KG-137, I forget it's called. I think that's what it's called. Basically, it's another pump-action shotgun. Simply enough. And then we have the Type 11 LMG. Now, overall, out of this content, the only weapon that I think was actually... the only weapon that I think is actually worth very much is the M2 carbine. Simply put, before the patch, the rebalancing of weapons patch, which I'll go over in the weekly content, all that and other things. Before that basically neutered a lot of the weapon, it was effectively the best weapon in the class. If you guys don't know why, it was a 30-round mag assault rifle that had basically the same damage as the STG, had similar recoil, but also fired at 830 RPM, which meant it fired faster. And the weapon had snappy reloads, good hip fire, and overall very good upgrades. So, simply put, it made it the best weapon in the assault class for close to medium range, and it basically dominated the scoreboard for the entirety of the patch before the TTK patch. The new pump-action shotgun is not bad. It actually has some very good range among pump actions, even without upgrades, and its upgrades themselves are very powerful. But overall, shotguns have not been in any weapon meta for a while, and the auto-loading is still a better weapon overall, even though it's been nerfed in the past. And finally, the Type 11 LMG, which I've actually done a review on. You guys can find that later down there, in which the weapon is not terrible, but it has no real... it's an okay weapon, but it has a lot of issues dealing with the fact that, namely, it is not unique enough to be used over other weapons, and it has too many detriments to where weapons like the Lewis gun, the Bren, the Madsen are all just better versions of it. So overall, the only weapon that really made a difference was the M2 carbine. As for the gadgets, we got the lunge mine, which was supposed to be in Chapter 5, but it was bugged, so I'll give them credit. At least they put it in the game, finally. And the bazooka rocket launcher. So the lunge mine is available to the support and assault class, and it's basically just a bayonet charge with an explosive on the end. And this explosive can deal a lot of damage to tanks. The main issue with this was that this gadget, which was not put in the game because it was bugged, was actually bugged on release, and is still sometimes bugged. But I think that's more hitboxes on the tanks being bugged as to the gadget. But basically, you would be hitting them in their most vulnerable sections, and these tanks would literally take 1 damage. Nobody knew why, but all we knew is that the gadget would sometimes do 50 damage, sometimes it would do 1 to 5 damage. It was all over the place. So it had a lot of issues, though I think it was probably one of the best things I had with the content, namely because not only was it fun to use, but it also had a lot of, it had a lot of good usage. As for the big thing that was also added was another assault rocket launcher, namely the bazooka. And as of right now, I can say it is the best rocket launcher in the game. Simply put, it has the least drop of any rocket launcher. It has and we're talking about like ground rocket launchers, we don't count the Panzer, so that's what it's called, because that is a anti-aircraft launcher. But it has the best velocity of all the base launchers, aside from maybe the Panzerfaust, but the Panzerfaust does like little to no damage, and is the highest capacity rocket launcher. Though not the highest damaging, that still goes to the Piat. The main thing is, though, the weapon still can be very good, and you start with 3 shots, which is not enough to kill a tank, generally. The weapon generally does anywhere from 13 to 25 damage, and if you hit them in the right spots, it can do up to 30 damage, or 34 damage, something like that, 33. So overall, you're going to require at least 4 rockets to kill, generally. But which you start with 3, but you can carry 5. And it is a one-shot against infantry if it directly impacts them. But overall, I think it is actually a very good gadget, and is the best rocket launcher to use. But it comes in through the Battle Pass. And unlike other Battle Pass items, it is actually the last Battle Pass piece of gear you get, meaning that it is actually, and it's not super long to grind for. It took me like a week when I was playing out Battlefield on and off, so it's not terrible, but it does have some issues, namely the fact that it does take some time to get. Other than that, we have not gotten any other new content from the game. But next up, I'm going to go over the TTK revert patch and talk about what it did for the game and what issues it caused and what it fixed. Okay, so if you guys don't realize, about a week or 2 after the update, I would say, or around 2 or 3 weeks after the update that gave us Chapter 6 and all of that, they changed the TTK back to the way it was before to an extent, or they reverted it. Namely, giving a lot of weapons more recoil, but giving them more damage. Namely, this fixed a lot of weapons like the FG-42 and a lot of the semi-auto weapons, because now they were still competitive, but it didn't go without its issues. Namely being, 3 weapon classes have been severely thrown under the bus because of this this update. And all 3 of them are actually it's kind of sad because most of them are primary weapons. Firstly, SMGs. Some SMGs have gain damage, and some of them have basically swapped places on the board. Namely, a lot of weapons in the SMG category are now okay. There's still quite a few that are good, but the overall meta of what SMGs are actually decent has changed a bit, and it is now kind of a bad thing to have SMGs in a lot of cases, because they, simply put, whilst they have more damage, they have almost no way of reaching out, and so now semi-autos will basically dominate with their buffs to damage and all that. So it's not like they're useless, but it's just that the meta for the weapon has changed around which weapons are good, and they've also messed around with the there was a lot of messing around with like what their abilities are in the overall meta as compared to other classes. The second biggest one is LMGs. Namely, some LMGs like the FG-42, the LS-26, and some MMGs became much better. Now, I'm not going to talk about the glitch in Chapter 5 with the MG-42 where, it did full damage and all that, blah blah blah, it doesn't matter. Main thing is that guns like the FG-42 and the LS-26, which were weapons that basically had somewhat slow rates of fire, but yet could not compete with SMGs, yet were forced to only deal their damage in SMG ranges, were terrible. With the update, they got fixed a bit, and they are now competent weapons at medium to long range. MMGs have been buffed. Simply put, they can consistently get kills, and a lot of LMGs are better. Main issue is, though, is that a lot of weapons have gotten worse in the LMG category. Namely, 90% of the mag-fed LMGs are terrible now. Mainly because of the fact that the Lewis gun now does everything that they do, but better, even though they already did that before. And any other 30-round LMG Now with the damage buff to assault rifles, semi-autos, and all that, they no longer have a range where they can competently deal with multiple people. And the thing is that while you can still do well with them, as you see me do it in this gameplay a little bit, there are still issues with that. Simply because you cannot play this game with LMGs and expect to be able to compete with any full auto weapons. SMGs at range, you beat them, but at range, some assault rifles beat you. At range, any semi-auto in the game beats you. Bolt action carbines beat you. Like, almost any other weapon will rip you to shreds before you can get your shots off. And even, like, the STG-44, which is a weapon that didn't get too much of a buff from the update, still can out-compete you just because they're not as cumbersome, they have less recoil than you. So mag-fed LMGs have been just thrown under the bus with this update. The only ones I can recommend are the Madsen, the Type 97, and these are for the 30 round and above mag-fed. The Lewis gun, the Type 97, the Bren if you prefer it over the Type 97, and the Lewis gun. Simply put, the Madsen and the Lewis gun have their own quirks that make them good. Namely, the Lewis gun having tons of ammo and somewhat low recoil, and the Madsen with its own unique damage model. And the main reason why I say the Type 95 or the Type 97 or the Bren is that they're both some of the lowest recoil in their categories, whilst having the best overall stats, at least from what I've seen. And the final class of weapons that got extremely hurt with this update was bolt action snipers / carbines, but carbines it's not as bad. Simply put, bolt action snipers no longer have they no longer have a range where they are uncontested. Now, semi-autos, especially the AGM-42, can just 2-tap you at long range. You no longer have to worry about snipers because semi-auto snipers or self-loading rifles can dumpster you. You have constant, now you have even assault rifles which can sometimes outshoot you just because of the fact of suppression and all that. So overall, there's bolt action sniper rifles as this update was better in some ways, in the ways that certain weapons can no longer just laser beam you from across the map. Now, with the higher damage, certain weapons, especially all semi-autos, basically outbeat you in the ranges you'd be using a bolt action. So in a lot of cases, they're not very good. Although, it's more of a skill of the user type thing, so either way, next up we're going to talk about the chapter rewards and the rewards over the weeks, and then we will close this off with my overall opinion of the update. So guys, I have two main things to talk about the progression. Namely, one is that they have made one good update to the progression, and that is the fact that for the chapter reward / battle pass and all that, the better you do on your team and the better score you have at the end of game, or your place on the scoreboard, does actually affect how well the chapter XP you get. In this case, if you're topping the scoreboard constantly and you're doing well for your team, you're playing the objective, all that, you will actually get more chapter XP than before, and there's like a sort of mini multiplier in there. So there actually is a reason to be doing well on your team, and overall I do enjoy this aspect. Other than that, for the base rewards, they're nothing special. Company coin, aesthetic things, new gear, obviously I already told you guys about those. But yeah, overall anything and most of that is the same thing we've had since always. The main issue I have with the progression this season is, simply put, is the in-weekly chapter rewards. Now, simply put, every single baseline reward gives you XP for the chapter. That I'm fine with. That makes sense. Doing the small challenges gives you your rewards for chapter XP. That makes sense. My biggest gripe with this whole chapter XP thing is the fact that there is no reason to complete them other than for the chapter XP. Namely because all they give you is a tier skip. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know what the tier skip does, but when you're like me, who doesn't care very much aside from maybe the company coin, and you're somebody who also, does most of the tiers just for the weaponry, it kind of sucks when you figure out, oh, I've already unlocked all the tiers because I grinded the first few weeks of content, and I just leveled up my battle pass by doing well on the scoreboard. So you're telling me now that I'm being told to do all these challenges for chapter XP, which levels up the battle pass, just to complete it, to level up my battle pass again. I don't care about that. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why should I care about doing these if there is no good reward? And a lot of people are like, well, what if, oh, well, that's whatever, it's like, I don't even know how to say it. Like, some people have been telling me that, like, oh, well, it's, so new players can do it. It's like, the chapter's already almost done. If you're joining in now, then you're kind of in a terrible spot. But the main thing about this is, though, that annoys me the most, is the fact that they don't do it, and then there have been several ways I can think of that can make this better. Simply put, you could, one of the main things I've seen people try and say is, you could add new skill trees to some of the things, or add, like, new skill, like, a new, thing for the vehicles in this case. Like, let's say, like, the Zero I'm using here, right? You could have it to where you could have, like, one vehicle full level up, or something like that, or like, oh, skip 2 XP tiers on vehicles. Because that is one of the main issues I have with this game, is that, yes, there are these people who have finished them up. But the thing is that you can also do this. You could also go into the armory and delete them for company coins. That way, everybody is happy. For people like me, who can't spend all day and don't have the ability to get into vehicles all the time because, people on PlayStation, stuff like that, use a bunch of garbage, stuff like that, such as PC and mouse on console, to try and get things faster. I don't have the ability to level up my vehicles all the way sometimes. And there are many vehicle loadouts I would like to try out. So giving us the ability, especially for new players, to give them the ability to skip some of those leveling up ranks, or maybe even just allow them to immediately unlock, a few parts of the tree on their vehicle, that's fine. Like, that actually makes some fun sense. And like I said, you can turn it in maybe for the amount of company coin it would take to upgrade that vehicle. So, like, let's say you have all the vehicles unlocked, but you want to buy some cosmetics. Well, if you have 4, like, levels, right, like if you have 4 full levels that are unlocked out of a vehicle skip, then you could turn those all in, and you get the 300, 600, 900, and I think it's like 1200 for the upgrades. So then if you look at it, you're then getting, what is that? Let me think. That's 900 plus 900, 1800. That's 3,000 currency. That's almost 3,000 currency for potentially 2 weeks worth of content, which is actually close to what the Battle Pass gives you. So, I mean, it basically, like, that's one of the main things I could do to fix this issue. Is simply put, just give us rewards, even if it involves in just skipping some of the progression in some cases. For some people, that would be enough. Or better yet, you could add new tree parts to the vehicles. In this case, you could give, like in this one of the main cases, you could give the Zero, or like each new plane, a new upgrade and stuff like that. Maybe like, completing the challenges will give you that new upgrade and stuff like that. So like maybe you could have it to where, I don't know, like, let's make it to like the Zero right here, right? And you could give a new upgrade where it replaces the secondary gun with a singular bomb instead of having 20mm cannons. And that would be like a bottom tree thing. So you could like, it could be like from So like, I mean, like that would give you like another thing at the very bottom of the tree, so you would have 4 options instead of just 3. But what it would give you is the ability to do more things, and that's what I mean. So overall, I think the progression reward system for the weekly rewards is terrible. I don't think the Battle Pass is terrible. I don't think the actual way we progress is very terrible. It's more the fact that what they're giving us for progressing, at least in the weekly mentality, is so bad that I have no reason to want to play other than actually, like, you know, just liking the gameplay. Which even then, I can only play this game for so long. And next up, I'm not going to do a new title slide just for this or a new transition, but I'm going to go over my overall opinion of this update. Simply put, this update is the final F-off to a lot of people. Simply put, the content is lacking, because whilst we did get one good map, this is one good map in a season where right before it, we had 3 maps, 2 of which in my opinion were good, which were the 2 launch maps. Wake Island isn't bad, which is the one you're seeing me play right here, but not my favorite by any stretch of the imagination. You gave us 4 weapons base that everybody got with the game, for 1 for each class. You gave us 2 weapons in the Battle Pass, and you gave us what, like, actually no, sorry, you gave us 3 weapons in the Battle Pass, and you also gave us a shit ton of weapons from the chapter rewards. Not only with that, but you also did some pretty good fixing and stuff like that, and you also gave us 4 new vehicles for each faction, for the new factions, and you gave us battle pickups. We were given so much content in the last chapter that it irritates me to see this chapter like it is. And I know, coronavirus, blah, 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 blah. I'm not harping on them for stopping content for now. I'm harping on them for not giving us any content to begin with, for not having this content ready before it released. But not only that, then they decide to basically halt the update due to coronavirus. Makes sense. But they have also not given us any clues to what the new chapter is going to be, aside from pretty much everyone knowing it's going to be the Eastern Front because of data miners. The reason why we know a chapter that may be coming out within the next month is because of data miners. That is depressing. Not only that, we have the fact that there are still rampant issues with the game's balance. And like I said, with the new TTA balance, did they fix a lot of things? Yes, but they have still kept certain things broken that were not broken before the patch that changed the TTK in the first place, because they decided to retweak some things. And like I said, overall, though, with this update, out of 5 stars, I'm giving this update a 3 out of 5. It is not the worst update we've had, but it has a severe lack in content, a severe issue with balancing for certain classes, a severe lack of communication between certain parties, and mostly overall a somewhat boring and just non-interesting update. Like chapter 5, when I saw this, I was happy with the chapter 5 update. I liked the content that we got. I liked what we had from it. And actually, if I remember correctly, we didn't even get the new map from that. We actually got Solomon Island, then we got Wake Island. So my bad. I may have even messed up some of my facts in here. That's how boring and unmemorable this season has been. That I could have probably forgotten what content was released because it all feels jumbled together without any sense. But overall, there were some good things added. Like I said, the overall quality of weapons added wasn't terrible and all that. But overall, you need to step it up with the Eastern Front. If you can't make the Eastern Front work, then just leave. With that being said, I'll be seeing you guys all later.